One of my favourite things about collecting retro video games is hunting for games in various different stores. I find it really enjoyable visiting different game stores like CEX to see what games they've got in and if they've got any games that I want for my consoles. I quite often at the weekend will nip to my local CEX to see what they have in stock and if there's anything new. But I also really enjoy visiting retro video game stores themselves, and they're quite few and far between in the UK, and especially around the area I live there's not that many. When I was visiting down south, I tried to go to a couple independent retro video game stores, but sadly both of them were closed, so I had no luck there. But recently, when visiting family up in the north of the UK, I finally managed to get to go to one of these stores that I'd been wanting to go to for quite a while, just not had the chance to go to yet. And I definitely think it's probably one of the best stores in the UK. So I filmed quite a bit while I was there, and I thought I'd bring you along for the ride. So let's get into it. So, this store is called Games Galaxy Megastore, and it's in Consett in County Durham in the north of England, and that's about 40 minutes away from Newcastle by car. And when you get there, the building itself is quite unassuming. It's this big red building, and then there's a doorway with a banner that reads Games Galaxy Megastore. But as you go up the stairs, you can hear the noise of the TARDIS playing from Doctor Who. And then when you get to the top of the stairs, the doors themselves are the TARDIS, which I thought was a really fun entranceway to a store. And then when you enter the store, you're greeted by sort of like wall-to-wall glass cabinets. It kind of felt more like going into a museum than an actual store. And in all of these glass cabinets, there was different Lego sets, toys and action figure collectibles, and then loads and loads of different retro video games. And in the glass cabinets specifically, it was more of the high price retro video games like your Pokemons and some GameCube games. But there was sort of all sorts of different games within these cabinets. I easily spent a good half an hour just walking along and looking at them all. They had everything from sort of Japanese imports to games to consoles that were before my time and ones that I'd never played or kind of even heard of. I was very much brought up on the PlayStation 1, Game Boys and the PSP, and then the DS as well. So they're very much my consoles and the ones that I know. But there was a load of other sort of consoles and handheld consoles and games for these devices that I wasn't necessarily familiar with. So it was really fun to look at these and just peruse the shelves. There were some really interesting games as well that I hadn't seen before. As I've said, like Japanese imports of games. There was a whole section dedicated to Pokemon. And then past the glass cabinets, there was sort of like a whole shelf section to Doctor Who and Doctor Who toys and Doctor Who magazines and costume pieces and stuff like that. And a huge Dalek in the store as well. You can clearly tell that the owner was a big fan of Doctor Who. I like Doctor Who as well, so it was really fun to look through the old Doctor Who collectibles, a lot of the toys my brother used to have, so it was a nice walk down memory lane looking at all these different action figures. And then around the rest of the store, there was shelves for all sort of your different console games, so the more common consoles. So there was a section on Xbox games, a big wall of Xbox games, PlayStation games for both PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, etc. There was a big stack of PC games, which I loved rummaging through. And then there was a section for your Nintendo Switch games, as well as Nintendo DS and 3DS. A smaller section for the PSP games, as well as then your GameCube games as well. I kind of was hoping to find some Nintendo 3DS or PSP games that are on my list that I want to get that I hadn't had. I was slightly disappointed with the games that were there. There was obviously still loads of PSP and 3DS and Nintendo DS games. There wasn't just that many that I wanted from my list. I did manage to buy sort of one PSP game and one Nintendo DS game, which I'll get into later, but I didn't really find that much on my list that I wanted to get. And then within the rest of the store, there was also a huge section of Pokemon cards. If that's your thing, there was loads of glass cabinets filled with different Pokemon cards. I am trying to resist collecting Pokemon cards, but I've seen the new 30th anniversary collection online, and I must admit I am feeling tempted by it, but I'm trying to stay strong. I can't start collecting something else. And then as well at the back of the store there was some comics and then a huge section of like replica weapons from different franchises, again, which was fun to see. And yeah, it was just a really cool store to look around. There was lots to see and do. I did kind of find it a bit overwhelming to begin with. I didn't really know where to start and where to look, but it was definitely worth going. And as I said, I think it's one of the best stores that I've been to in the UK. You can really tell that the owner and the staff there kind of love what they do and love video games, and the upkeep of the store was immaculate as well. It was very, very, very clean and things were well displayed. So anytime I'm up north again, I'm definitely going to be going back because I found it as a really enjoyable experience. And I didn't think the prices were too bad either. Sometimes you can find with these retro video game stores that prices can be slightly upmarked compared to what you can find on eBay. But I always think if I'm going somewhere and it's not too overpriced, I don't mind paying slightly more. But as I said, for the Games Galaxy Megastore, yeah, everything I thought was really well priced. So what did I actually buy? So as I said, I came away with one PSP and one Nintendo DS game, and then a couple of other things as well. So the PSP game was Sid Meier's Pirates. I love pirate games. I love sort of pirate franchises as well. I'm a huge fan of Pirates of the Caribbean, so anything pirates I enjoy. I've tried to play this before on the Nintendo Switch, but I didn't get very far on it, so I'm excited to play it on the PSP, and it's just another fun game that was on my list anyway, so I'm glad that I managed to add this to my collection. I think on this game you can do both naval battles and then hand-to-hand in-person battles as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing this. I think it is sort of a free roam game as well, which I've discussed on the channel. I really enjoy free roam games. So then for the DS, I brought Viva Pinata Pocket Paradise. So Viva Pinata is another one of those franchises that I grew up playing as a kid on the Xbox. It was just a really fun, chill game where you have your garden, you just attract more pinatas to it, and it was really fun decorating. So the fact there's just a handheld version of that, I find really exciting, and I can't wait to play. The graphics look a little janky on it, but it will still be fun to have like a portable Viva Pinata to play at times anyway. It's always one of those little cozy games that I'm quite nostalgic about, and I think it's quite a fun, colourful, unique game. Not really many games I can think of like it, where you build a garden to attract animals essentially. So yeah, this was a nice fun little find as well. I'm glad I brought that. My next two games that I brought are PC games. So with PC games, given that most computers now are Windows 11, you can't necessarily install from discs. So these are kind of more collectibles to just put on my shelves, and they're both for MMORPGs that I love playing and play quite regularly. So the first is for Star Wars The Old Republic. This is a game that I'm playing loads at the moment and love. I've played it quite a bit over the course of its lifetime. I remember back when it was in beta, there was a Games Fest, I think it was. So the game store in the UK was doing a festival type thing at Birmingham at the NEC. So I went to that and I managed to play the beta there. I really wanted to play, I think you could either end up playing like a PvP session or like a dungeon. I really wanted to play the dungeon, and I was queuing up and I ended up unfortunately having to play the PvP side of things. I think it was like a football game, for those that know SWOTOR, that I played at the time. So I was really excited for it, and I've been playing it on and off ever since. So I did used to have this as a kid, but when I moved out of my parents, sadly got rid of all my games. So it's nice to just have a little copy of this again, just to put on my shelf. I think this was really, really cheap to buy. So even though I can't necessarily use the discs, it's just fun for me to have on the shelf. And then the next PC game I brought was EverQuest 2, and this is the limited edition box set. I've not actually ever seen this before. To be honest, I don't think it's that rare. I just thought it was really cool. I do quite like limited edition and collector's editions of games when I see them. And EverQuest 2 is again one of those MMOs that I've played on and off over the years. Funnily enough, it's also one of those MMOs that I've never ever been able to get max level or even quite high level in. I think the highest level character I've got on to this day is like 55, which isn't high at all, especially given some of the newer expansions now. But this was fun. It also comes with a cloth map of the world, which is fun. I don't think I'll ever display it, but it's still cool nonetheless. I'll keep this within the box to keep it sort of like as a complete set. But very pleased with this. Again, this was only, I think £10 I paid for it, which might be more than what it's actually worth. I don't know, but to me £10 I didn't think was that bad. Again, for something that I'm going to display on my shelf, and it was in good condition. I thought that was really cool. So then next, I also brought 2 strategy guides. So they had a whole shelf unit filled with strategy guides, and they were very reminiscent of the shelf units that you used to see in Game Station and Game many years ago, back in like the early 2000s, the early mid 2000s. And I've discussed before on this channel that I really love strategy guides. I think it's just fun to have a book to flick through all about a game, very visual, kind of just, they become like table books. They're not necessarily super usable for some games as the games have been updated. So the 2 strategy guides I brought are the one for the World of Warcraft Burning Crusade. So again, I used to have this back as a kid, but sadly it disappeared over the years. So I'm really pleased to have found this and buy this. It basically just covers like all of the quests in the whole Burning Crusade expansion and what could be found in sort of like the different towns. It's just, I think, a fun little time capsule of that expansion and the game at that time. And it's just like fun, I find, to flick through and look at the pictures and kind of see how advice and things have changed over the years. I would be interested to see if this is usable for WoW nowadays, because obviously things have changed. There's World of Warcraft Classic as well, where hopefully all the advice in this is still relevant. And then the other thing they had on the shelf was the World of Warcraft Dungeon Companion. So this is again for the Burning Crusade and covers all of the dungeons from that expansion, and it has basically guides for each of the dungeons as well as the quests that can be found in the dungeons, and then it talks about gearing as well as the raids as well. And again, this is just another one of those items I like to just flick through every now and then. It's kind of more nostalgic for me because I used to have this one as well. I've got memories of sitting down and reading this when I was playing World of Warcraft and doing some of these dungeons rather than sort of watching YouTube videos. I quite like to flick through the guides as I was playing to learn the tactics and know what to do when I was fighting bosses. I'm a huge World of Warcraft player as well. I play that on and off as I do with all my MMOs. I'm playing Star Wars: The Old Republic at the moment, and I paused my World of Warcraft subscription, but no doubt in future updates I will go back to World of Warcraft. So I always enjoy having World of Warcraft memorabilia whenever I can find it, because it's kind of one of those games that I've been playing for a long time now and get very nostalgic about. And that's what I found really enjoyable about this store, was a few different sort of retro video game stores I've been in. Purely are just like video games, your Pokemon cards, and then like Funko Pops. So it was nice that this store had a good selection of other things like strategy guides and PC games and your more like collectible toys and stuff like that. As I said, I just really enjoy collecting more of those things and seeing those things and sort of the rarer items out and about that you don't necessarily find in like CEX. So yeah, I'd definitely recommend going to this store. I would love to know if there was any other retro video game stores in the UK that you think I should visit. I know there's one, I don't know the name of it, near Glasgow in Scotland. I think that's in like a big industrial estate. It's supposed to be really good. So I'd love to visit that at some time. And then there's 2 sort of in Greater Manchester as well that I probably will visit at some time. Maybe I'll film it and create a video on that and see how they compare. So yeah, that was just a video on what I think is the best retro video game store in the UK. I hope you enjoyed it, and please leave a comment and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.